Welcome to the McKnight Center, and thank you for joining us on Center Stage. During this series, we invite you to learn alongside us as we take a closer look at the performing arts, guest artists, and so much more. We encourage you to keep on learning and to create your own fun at home. Joining us today, we have Koontz, local performer and ukulele enthusiast. She is also the founder and leader of Stillwater Ukulele Association. Soon, Cami will be joining us to teach us more about the ukulele and how to create fundamental chords. But first, let's join Cami as she takes center stage and performs Christmas Time Is Here by Lee Mendelson and Vince Guaraldi. I have Cami Koontz joining me, and we're going to just chat with her to learn more about her and more about the ukulele. I just want to know, first of all, a little bit more about how you came into your musical journey, and more specifically, how you became such a ukulele enthusiast. So tell us more about that.
I've always been an avid music student. I started piano when I was about 7 and have been playing most of my life, off and on. And I sang in choirs growing up in junior high and high school. And I never really started to try a stringed instrument when I was younger. It was just a few years ago, the end of 2013, I was in Nashville with my best friend, and she saw a cute little ukulele and said, "You should just buy that. Even if you don't learn how to play it, you could hang it on the wall." So I bought it, and I came back to Stillwater and went to our local music store, Daddy-O's, and bought a book and just started going through the book that had a DVD, and so I'm self-taught. And then I thought, this is so accessible and it makes sense to me, and I think that it would make sense to other people. And surely I'm not the only one around here that plays, and so I really wanted to find other people to play with. And so I started the Stillwater Ukulele Association and found other people. And then we started a little performance group called the Misspent Ukes, and we would go out and play at senior living facilities and around Stillwater at different events. I also, during that whole time, I was thinking, how can I raise money to get ukuleles into the hands of music students around this area, elementary music students, because it is very accessible. The ukulele is just their size, and it is easy to pick up. And so I started the journey of raising money to get ukes into schools, and partnered with Daddy-O's to make my fundraised dollars go farther, and it's just been a wild ride ever since.
Well, very cool. So now I see that you've brought quite a collection of ukuleles with you today, and from previous episodes I feel like I can confidently call this the consort of the ukulele. So can you introduce these to us and tell us a little bit more about the consort?
Yes, if you'll hold up this one. Yeah. That is the soprano size, and it is the smallest of the ukuleles. The next one in line is the consort, and then the next one here is the tenor. This is a baritone ukulele, and it is tuned D, G, B, E. And there is also a U bass, and the U bass has thicker strings, and it's tuned just like any bass guitar.
Okay. Now, like consorts that I've seen before, most of the body or the structure of all these ukuleles are quite similar. So what are some of the important parts that we should know about looking at the ukulele consort?
Sure. This is the body of the ukulele with the sound hole, and this is the neck that has the fretboard. This is the headstock that has the tuning machines, and the tuners tune the strings higher or lower in pitch, and the strings are attached here to the tuners, and they go through a groove in the nut all the way down here to the bridge and saddle where they're secured. So the differences then between these is that the bodies, as you can tell, are a little bit bigger as you go up. The necks are going to be a little bit longer as you go up in sizes, and the frets are going to be a little bit wider as you go up in sizes.
Okay, so now that we have heard about the consort and the important parts, once upon a time you were a beginner, so take us back to just square one, and what are some good bits of advice that you could give a beginner?
One of the first things is a good playing position.
Okay.
So I think everybody in the music world will tell you to sit up straight.
Yep.
So we're going to put the back of the body of the ukulele against our tummies.
Okay.
And we're going to point the neck up about a 45-degree angle to our left. Now, that's not exact. As you're playing, you'll find your most comfortable position. And a good hand position, both in strumming and in fretting a chord. So let's talk about strumming first.
Okay.
So what I do, and there are different ways of strumming too, but I think the easiest, most efficient way to strum is to take your right hand first finger and bend it in. That gives you a playing like a plectrum, like a pick with your fingernail where you brush down and brush up. So also on the strumming, you don't want to get it robotic, you don't want your shoulder involved, you don't want your elbow involved. It's all in the wrist. And so your hand is going to make a sweeping kind of an arc motion, and the goal is to brush the strings down and then maybe brush the strings back up, making them all ring out cleanly. And so what you're going to listen for when we start here in a second is that you're not like getting your finger stuck and that you're not plunking one, but you're kind of brushing them up and down. So you want to do some strumming?
Sure.
Just simple strumming? Okay, so brush up and down. Let's start down. And it takes a little bit of practice to figure out where your hand feels the best. And I bet you think, well, I can't play a song yet just doing this,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Let's try. Chain, chain, chain.
I know that one.
Chain, chain, chain. Chain of fools. Chain of fools. Chain, chain, chain. Chain of fools. You just played your first song.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. I feel very accomplished.
That's right.
Thank you for the excellent instruction. Now, it takes more than strumming, as we all know, and even if our knowledge of a ukulele is very limited, we can think guitar and we can visualize the left hand going crazy sometimes.
Right.
So let's not go crazy yet, but can you tell us a little bit more about the fretboard and what we should do with our left hand, and maybe some hopefully beginner chords that you think we could handle?
Oh, sure, yes. So also the left hand needs a good playing position too, because what we want to do once we press down on a string to make a chord, we're going to press down on the very tippy toe ends of our fingers, because we can't fret flat, because if I wanted to fret string 3, for instance, and I might mute the other strings. So let's get a good hand position. So I'm going to imagine that I've got a tennis ball in my hand, and I'm going to bring up my hand like this, and my thumb is going to land somewhere behind the 2nd fret, perhaps, and my fingers then, with still holding my tennis ball, are going to line up really nicely here with the frets. So the way to learn some chords and communicate with each other, let's start numbering a couple of things.
Okay.
So we're going to number the strings. The ukulele has 4 strings. We didn't talk about that, but that's pretty obvious. We're going to number the strings from our toes to our nose. So the string down here is string 1. That's that A string. The string up here is string 4. That's that high G string. So we've got those numbered. Let's number our fingers. On our left hand, we're going to number 1, 2, 3, 4. And as we just noticed, when we've got a good playing position, these line up nicely with frets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's put finger 1 on fret 1 on string 1,
okay.
and let's do some strumming of that. That's a C7.
Okay.
You want to play your second song?
I'm ready.
You put the lime in the coconut and drink it all up. You put the lime in the coconut and drink it all. I say, doctor. Okay, that's enough of that. But both of those songs that we just played are one chord all the way through the entire song. There aren't a whole lot of one chord songs, so we need to learn more chords, obviously.
Yeah.
So when you're learning the ukulele, it's good to learn how to read a chord chart. Mm-hmm. So if you look at this part of the ukulele here, and you look at the C6 or A minor 7th chord chart, that should look the same, because you can tell that the strings, string 1 is now over here on a chord chart, and fret 1 is here. So you can see that similarity between the fretboard and the chord chart.
Okay.
So the C7 that we played, if you look at the A minor 7th compared to the C7 chord chart, there's a dot right there on the first fret, first string, and that dot indicates where to put your finger. Now, if you line up your fingers here, it just makes sense that finger 1 should probably be playing in fret 1. Some very beginner-friendly chord charts have a number inside the dot, and that tells you what finger to use.
Okay.
So then, if we want to learn a different chord, let's learn the F add 9.
Okay.
And so if you look at the chord chart C7 and F add 9, let's look at the difference there. So the difference would be the dot is now on the second string of the first fret. So let's see what that sounds like. It's kind of a jazzy F chord. F add 9 is a lot to say, so I'm just going to call it like F-ish for right now. So the goal also is to, as you were doing a really good job, keeping the time and the tempo going with your strumming hand as you're changing chords, because I mean, as you're a beginner, you're going to take some time to learn how to switch between chords, but we don't want to play a chord and then completely stop strumming and then look at our hand and look at the fretboard and then play the next chord. We want to keep in tempo because we're building to a song. So we want to focus on smooth transitions between our chords. Okay. So the thing that I always say is look ahead, think ahead, plan ahead. Yeah. So if we start on the F add 9 and then we want to switch to C7 for a song, you've got to think, what is my finger going to do in rhythm? And so it's going to come off of the second string and go to the first string to change from the F add 9 to the C7. Okay. So let's just practice playing like 4 beats of F add 9 and then 4 beats of C7 and then land back on F add 9. We're playing a 2-chord song in the key of F doing that. So 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3, C7, back to F add 9. There, you just played another song. We don't know what that is, but there are lots of 2-chord songs in F, and if you've got little ones in the room, it could be the wheels on the bus go round and C7, round and round, back to F add 9, round and round. So you could keep playing F add 9 and C7 and have that whole song.
Well, I know we just scratched the surface, and there's a lot more chords out there, and there's a lot more practicing our viewers and I could do. Do you have any helpful, quick resources that are just accessible for everyday learner who maybe doesn't even have a ukulele yet, but they have that fretboard that we just made a little bit ago?
Sure. There is a chord chart that I love, and it's on my website, stillwaterukuleles.com. It's on the song packets page. It's chords by key. And the ukulele, the key of C is very ukulele friendly. And so if you went out and bought a book on ukuleles and just looked at the chord chart that's in the back of the book, it's going to have like all the A's, and then it'll go to all the B's, and that doesn't really make sense because it's not in context. So the ukulele chord chart by key makes a lot of sense because we were just playing 2 chords in the key of F, and so on that it says the key of F, here's the F chord, here's the C7, here are the other 2 chords that would make a song. So the same thing with the key of C, we have C, A minor, F, G7, C. It's all together there where it makes sense in context in the way you think of scales in music. So on my website there is a great chord chart, and you can use your fretboard at home and look through that and practice placing your fingers there so that you can think about moving and how to play those chords. The other thing is there's a 2-chord songbook on my website along with lots of other songs. On my links page there are many beginner-friendly resources because I was a beginner and I wanted to find all the things that I could find. I think my other suggestion would be pick a song that you want to ultimately play because that's going to get you on that path to learning more chords.
A little bit more motivation.
Because likely it's not going to be F and C7. And find somebody to play with, find a group. If it's not in person, find one online. Check your local music store. They have lots of resources, not only the instruments, but the accessories and lessons and things like that.
Well, that all sounds like great advice, and I can't wait to hear where maybe some of our audience members go with that. And in fact, want to make sure that we all know along your journey in learning ukulele, we want to hear from you. So if you pick up a ukulele and you're starting to make music, simply share with us by making that comment below and uploading any kind of recording, whether it be video or simply just so we can hear what success you're having. I want to thank you again, Cami, for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day and teaching us a little bit more about the fundamentals of ukulele.
Thank you so much for letting me be here.
You're welcome. And a special thanks to each of you, our viewers, patrons, and advocates. Keep an eye out for our next installment, and until then, keep creating at home.